Taiwan is bursting with heaps of fun places to explore. Join me, Amber Hatfield, as I hit up travel hotspots, soak up some culture, and hunt down hidden gems. Let's go! Hello and welcome back to Let's Go. You're here with me, Amber Hatfield, and today I'm joined by RTI host Amanda.
Hello.
And we are going to be chatting about some of our favorite spots to take family when they come to Taiwan, as well as Jiufen, which is a cool little place in Taiwan. And Amanda has some interesting stuff to tell us about the Gold Museum out there near Jiufen, which is pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to that. When was the first time you went to Jiufen?
Oh, actually, personally, the first time that I went to Jiufen, I think was the same week that I arrived in Taiwan.
Wow, okay.
Because I had some of my Taiwanese best friends. At the time, we were just new friends, but they were like, oh, welcome to Taiwan. We're your coworkers, but we know it's lonely, so let's take you somewhere. And so my friend and her sister took me up to Jiufen, and that was how I learned how to go there. And they actually did the same tour that I now like to take people on.
Okay.
Which was they took me up to Jiufen. We went to the Gold Museum first. That I don't know if they'd ever been to it before, but it was very cool. And then from there we took the bus back to Jiufen and did the old street, and they took me up to the tippy top of it, and we got those special
we're going to talk about food later.
Yeah, the Tangyuan things. And it was great. I was just so wowed. I don't really remember much beyond being wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Because it was I was so overwhelmed by everything that was happening in that first week.
Yeah. So Jiufen is a little bit outside of Taipei, maybe an hour or so on the bus.
It's a little bit longer than that. I feel also probably depending on the weather, because the last time I went, I think it was an hour and 45 minutes. Something a little bit closer to that. And then it was longer to come back. It kind of depends which bus you catch.
Yeah. And it's an old street. A lot of people say that it's kind of based on, or it was the inspiration for Spirited Away.
That's what I heard. That's how I get a lot of my friends to immediately go visit, because they're all big animation nerds or whatever. So I'm oh, you like Spirited Away, you should go visit Jiufen. It looks a lot like that, or it's got an old street and a tea house that inspired it. So that's one of my go-tos. Yeah.
So how long do you think is a good time to spend in Jiufen? It's more like a day trip kind of place, or do you think you'd spend there overnight?
Let's see. I've actually done both, because I really like the area. But I think when I have people from outside of Taiwan who are coming to go visit, I usually recommend a day trip. You can do most of the Jiufen Old Street in a day. Maybe get up there around 11 so that you can enjoy the noon in a tea house and watch the sun peak, or a little bit earlier, and then head out around 7, 8, something like that. I think a lot of places close around 8.
And Jiufen is pretty famous for having what you were just saying before, which is those sweet potato and taro balls, which are super delicious.
I know there's that one restaurant that honestly at this point I kind of just navigate it by sight and vibes, based on how many times I've been there.
Yeah.
But up at the top of the hill of the Jiufen township where the night market is, there's one really famous spot where they hand make them. You can see them making them in the front with the little hammers, and you have to wait in this very noisy line, and in the typical signs of it's going to be a good place, because they're not necessarily polite. They're just all right, take a number. Where do you want to sit? Yeah, go over there. Get in back, and then you get it. You get the tangyuan with whenever I've gone there, it's been hot, so we get it with the traditional shaved ice, where it's just ice and a sweet slurry, and then the tangyuan on top, and some red bean and stuff. And to me, that's great. I love that stuff, especially if you've worked your way to get all the way up there to the top of the mountain and kind of look out.
I love putting it's condensed milk, a little tub of condensed milk, or almost like coffee creamer, and you drip that on the top, and it's so good.
That's exactly the analogy I was going to make. It's they give you that little cream pourer of condensed milk, and it's okay, this is going to be the good stuff.
Yeah, and you can also get it if you do end up going to Jiufen on a cold day, you can also get that snack hot.
Yes, I have tried it hot once, I think. I don't remember as clearly because I only did that once For me, I don't think it's as nice as getting it cold just because they kind of get like, well, like anyone else who's had tangyuan soup, like they get kind of sticky, right? And they kind of break down. But it still did its job of like being fortifying and being like the treat of like, we worked our way up here. So like we came out here, the weather is cold, it's kind of miserable because you're still on a mountain. But yeah, you can get it either way. Or if you're somebody who just doesn't like to have cold treats, you can also get it hot. The people there, I'm 100% sure the people there would not approve of you getting it hot on a hot day, though.
Yeah, probably not.
It's the traditional style. They'd be like, this is bad for your health.
And the same spot that you're talking about, like up at the very top, they have this back area where you sit and you can see the whole view.
Yes.
But the last time I was in Jiufen, which was probably a couple months ago, I've been there a few times, but I haven't been there for quite a few years. And the last time I went, it was so foggy. Just looking out the window, it was just completely white. I couldn't see any view at all.
It's always such a bummer. I'm from a really mountainous area, and it's always like a 50-50 of like when you go up the mountain, like, because the weather changes so fast. And especially when you're looking out like over the East Coast, like whatever's going to blow in over the ocean is like, you just kind of have to resign yourself to like, it's probably going to be a good day. But there's always a chance that like by the time I get up there, it might be bad.
Yeah.
Like it might be bad visibility. So, but it does, I mean, sometimes it changes quickly. I still kind of like the view though, even on like those really foggy days, because for me, I think at that point I just start looking at like the immediate area around Jiufen is still like that really lush mountain, or sometimes you can see like the little neighboring mountain peaks just over top of like the clouds when they sit down in like the valleys. I think they're not quite valleys, but you know, they sit down below the peaks. So
it kind of makes it a bit like a mystical kind of vibe.
Very much so. It's very much like backpacking, like I'm backpacking to find myself kind of vibe. Like you go up there in the bad weather. Yeah.
So one thing that I don't like about Jiufen though is the crowds. So whenever I go, I try to go on like a weekday or something. If you do end up going to Jiufen on the weekend, the crowds can be really intense. Like it's this really small old alleyways that you're walking down with lots of shops in. And the shops are really cool to look in. They sell like lots of different kinds of food and like little trinkets and stuff. But
a lot of handmade stuff.
When it's a busy weekend, it can be pretty terrible.
The other reason to not go on a weekend, I would say, is because now that the mountain is opened up, or the island is opened up, tour groups go up there, which is great because it's a wonderful place. The vendors are really lovely. I want them to get the business. But then you're trying to squeeze into like I think the last time we went, we did go on a weekday, but we were there at like peak hours. So we still ran into some tour groups and we were just trying to like squeeze between people to get like, I was trying to have them try some like luoyuan, which is one of my favorite treats, and like some of the traditional ice cream wraps. And it was literally like people are standing like in the middle of this very small busy road, like taking pictures and just kind of looking or like lining up. Suddenly the line goes from like 1 to like 15 people, and you're just like, oh God, like it's not worth it.
So do you think when you've taken people to Jiufen, what's their reaction? Do they like it?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of them are immediately wowed by like what you and I just said about like the very traditional vibe it has, and like for a lot of my friends who like did kind of grow up in like the animated filmography and like the Ghibli vibe and have seen Spirited Away, they immediately are like, oh my God, this does put me like in that mood of like the busy night market outside of the big bathhouse, and the tea houses that are there really kind of evoke that feeling of like, I don't know. I don't have like one word to describe it, but it does kind of invoke like this like thoughtfulness or like this kind of tranquil idea as soon as you're off the street. Because we were just talking about the streets are always busy, but like once you can get yourself into like one of these side streets or like these little like tangyuan houses at the top or one of the many tea houses, I think that's something that a lot of them just like get very swept up in. And so a lot of them really like it. I do have to like, I think it's piggybacking on what you said earlier. The weather is really important though, because I think the first time I took my parents there, it was okay when we left Taipei. And then when we got up there, it was raining, but not like little driplets, like heavy tropical mountain rain. And it was cold. And that was probably like the worst visit I've ever had, because we were just kind of stomping around, sliding on all of the bricks. So weather's important, at least if it's not raining would
Yeah.
be my recommendation.
Let's chat about the Gold Museum, because when I went to Jiufen area last time, I did see the signs for the Gold Museum, but I didn't end up going. And I wanted to go, but it kind of wasn't in our plan for the day, so I didn't end up going. So can you tell me about it? What's it like?
I actually would love to. I wish, like, this is the one thing I want to evangelize to my other Taiwanese friends to go do, because for me, like I said, that was the first time I ever went there. So I assumed a lot of people went to go visit it, but I think it's actually the opposite. It's like most people get off, because the way you get there is you take the same bus you go to from Taipei to Jiufen, but you just ride it almost to the end. So the Gold Museum is like 2 stops north of where you get off at Jiufen. And it is built on the site of the old Japanese gold mine that used to be there. It was Taiwanese Mining Corps, but before that, it was owned by the Japanese. And the museum is like, I say museum, but it's actually like really big, because it's this whole campus that used to be the mine. So when you walk around it, like when you first come in, they have like one of those big kind of like reception parking lots, and they do have a map in Chinese. They have many maps in Chinese you can take, and they have one map in English. And the last time that we went, because I speak enough Chinese like conversationally, I can get like kind of around where we're going, but they had me take a photo of the map in English so that I could share it with my like in-laws and show them where we were going. And they have a list of like an order in the way that you should visit all of the locations on the campus that they will recommend to you. They have these houses that the Japanese officers used to live in that have been restored so that you can see what they were like. They've filled them with artifacts from the time. And at this point now, it's about 100 years ago. So not like generationally, maybe like 2 generations ago. And they have these like very interesting little plaques that are like, here's what this was used for. Here's what this person might have been. These people were probably like in the officer's house, or like these were nationals who were just like shipped out for like location work. So like the father would be like out there monitoring the miners, who I don't know if they're there voluntarily or not, but then their family is just kind of stuck in this small mining village, like trying to figure it out. They have really interesting photographs of people who lived there at the time. And then you can move from there into, they have several actual museums that are built into the old, like different processing, that's the word, processing buildings. And they've turned them into museums. So they have some about like, here's the mountain ecology, and here is like the different metals and what they mean, or here's why it's important. They have some, and then mixed in with that, they have just like photos of what it looked like in that area and where you can see it. And sometimes they've like done up the windows so that you can then look out, and you know where they have like the decals on the windows where it's like, and that's where it was, like right over there. And there's like a big art museum where they have art that is made with the gold that is done there. You can continue up to, not only do they have the officers' houses, but they have like shared housing for like what workers there were doing. And up at the very top, they have first of all like the mine car track that you can walk along, and they have I didn't do this because I've actually spent a lot of time in mines over my youth, and I hate them. But this museum is still really cool. But they have this like experience for like an extra 50 yen, I think. You can go into a mine, and they have these wax figures that are set up to show you like what it was like to actually just be in that mine. And so my boyfriend and his parents did that, and they really liked it. It's very much like a diorama kind of thing. And then they have like that last museum up at the top, which is much more about like how the mine operated and throughout the history. So like how it was originally a mine, and then it was like a mine for like maybe voluntary Taiwanese workers, maybe not so voluntary. Then it was a prisoner of war camp for British officers in World War One of the world wars, with like dioramas of what it was like in the mine. And then up at the very top, they have this huge brick of gold that you can just take a photo with, like touch. And I think there is gold panning that you can do, like an experience of gold panning you can do somewhere further up on the mountain. So anyway, as you can tell, there's a bunch of stuff to do. We didn't even go to all of the buildings because we ran out of time to do it. But like, it's really just worth sinking several hours into, I think, because there's definitely something there that you would like. And the price of entry is also pretty cheap. So I think like the regular ticket was 80 yen. And then if you live in New Taipei, some areas of New Taipei City, you can get a discount. And then if you want an extra experience, like you wanted to go through the mine, it's just an extra 50. And you can pay it with your Easy card as well if you want. So it's very accessible.
Sounds great. I would think I would definitely going to have to check it out next time. And maybe if anyone comes to visit me in Taiwan, that could be a place that I could take them. It's an easy day trip from Taipei. So.
It is. Well, and like the thing that we did when we went was like we went there first in the morning and then we scooped by Jiufen in the evening to get food.
Let's chat really quick about what are your top few places to take people when they come and visit you in Taiwan.
Yeah. I mean, well, the reason we talked about this is because I think this is definitely like my number one, just because it's so easy when a lot of them land in Taipei. It's an easy day trip. So we can get out there. We can go somewhere in Jiufen and get a nice view. Number two, I really like taking people to Sun Moon Lake. I think it's very impressive. Kind of tranquil as well, but you have some activities around there that you can do. Number three, honestly, is probably just kind of like more local night markets. Okay. Because it's very different from like typical American culture. Would be like local night markets and temples. The big night market I take people to is, of course, Shilin Night Market. And then as for temples, I kind of just like handpick from like where we are. If I'm somewhere and I know like, oh, this one looks really cool, like, or it's easy to get in. So like Xingtian Temple in Taipei is an easy walk around temple.
Yeah. Awesome. Sounds good. So if you are planning to come to Taiwan or you're in Taiwan looking for places to take people, definitely give out Jiufen and the Gold Museum a try.
I cannot recommend enough.
Maybe take some people to go to Sun Moon Lake, and also night markets are a hit. So you can try that too.
I've never had someone disappointed from any of those three. So that would be my heartiest recommendation.
That's about all we've got time for today's show. Thank you to Amanda for sharing about her trips in Jiufen and also her information about the Gold Museum, which was pretty enlightening for me. I'm your host, Amber Hatfield, and I will see you next week on another episode of Let's Go.